The day the door burst open, Long Beach, California. August 1964. The Long Beach International Karate Championships. Inside a packed auditorium, 500 people sit in absolute silence, watching a man who moves like no martial artist they've ever seen. Bruce Lee stands at the center of the stage, 23 years old, lean, coiled like a compressed spring. He's been invited to give a demonstration. For the past 20 minutes, he's been explaining his philosophy. Jeet Kune Do, the way of the intercepting fist. No fixed patterns, no rigid forms, only efficiency, directness, simplicity. The audience is mesmerized. They've never seen anything like this. Traditional martial artists perform kata, choreographed sequences of movements, beautiful but theatrical. Bruce Lee is showing them something different, something real. He demonstrates the 1-inch punch, placing his fist 1 inch from a volunteer's chest and sending the man stumbling backward several feet with explosive power. The crowd gasps. He shows them speed drills, his hands moving so fast they blur. He explains interception, hitting an opponent before their attack even develops. 500 students, masters, and martial artists watch in stunned silence. Some are inspired, some are skeptical, and one man in the back of the room is furious. His name is Wong Jack Man, and he's about to make the worst decision of his life. The challenge that shook the martial arts world. Wong Jack Man is a respected kung fu master from San Francisco's Chinatown. He's trained in northern Shaolin, Tai Chi, and Xingyi Quan. He's a traditionalist, a purist, someone who believes kung fu should be preserved exactly as the ancient masters taught it, and he's been watching Bruce Lee with growing rage. To Wong Jack Man, everything about Bruce Lee is wrong. Bruce teaches non-Chinese students, white people, black people, anyone willing to learn. This violates the ancient code that kung fu secrets should remain within the Chinese community. Bruce rejects traditional forms and creates his own hybrid style. This disrespects the masters who came before him. Bruce charges money for lessons and performs public demonstrations. This commercializes a sacred art. But what really infuriates Wong Jack Man is Bruce Lee's arrogance. This young upstart, not even 30 years old, claiming that traditional kung fu is outdated, that fixed forms are limiting, that the old ways need to evolve. Who does he think he is? As Bruce finishes his demonstration to thunderous applause, Wong Jack Man rises from his seat. He's not alone. Several other traditional masters from San Francisco's Chinatown are with him. They've been discussing Bruce Lee for months. They've decided something needs to be done. After the demonstration, as the crowd disperses and Bruce talks with students, Wong Jack Man approaches. The conversation is tense. Accounts vary about exactly what was said, but the message is clear. Stop teaching non-Chinese students. Stop disrespecting traditional kung fu. Stop claiming your way is better. Or fight. Bruce Lee doesn't hesitate. He accepts immediately. But there's a problem. This is a public venue, and an actual fight could lead to arrests, lawsuits, chaos. They agree to meet in private. A formal challenge match, behind closed doors, away from police and publicity. The date is set. Late 1964, at Bruce Lee's school in Oakland. The secret fight. The exact date remains disputed. Some say it was late 1964. Others claim early 1965. But everyone agrees on the location. Bruce Lee's Jun Fan Gung Fu Institute in Oakland, California. It's a small school, intimate, with wooden floors and mirrors on the walls. Bruce uses it to teach his growing number of students. Today, it will become a battlefield. Wong Jack Man arrives with witnesses, several kung fu practitioners from San Francisco's traditional schools. They're here to observe, to ensure fairness, and to witness what they believe will be Bruce Lee's humiliation. Bruce has his own witnesses, his wife Linda, his student James Yim Lee, and a few other close students. The atmosphere is tense. This isn't a friendly sparring match. This is a challenge fight with real stakes. If Bruce loses, he's agreed to stop teaching non-Chinese students and close his school. If Wong Jack Man loses, the traditional masters will stop criticizing Bruce's methods. The terms are set, the room is cleared, and the two men face each other. 8 seconds that changed everything. What happens next becomes one of the most debated moments in martial arts history. Both sides tell different versions, but certain facts remain undisputed. Bruce Lee and Wong Jack Man bow to each other. There's no referee. No rules about forbidden techniques. This is as close to a real fight as you can get without it being a street brawl. Bruce assumes his fighting stance, side-facing, hands high, weight balanced. Wong Jack Man takes a traditional kung fu stance, more squared, prepared for multiple techniques. And then Bruce Lee attacks. He doesn't wait. He doesn't test his opponent with tentative jabs. He explodes forward with devastating speed and intent. Wong Jack Man, expecting a more cautious traditional beginning, is caught off guard. Bruce's punches come in rapid succession, straight lead, followed by a hook, followed by another straight. Wong Jack Man tries to block, tries to counter, but Bruce's speed is overwhelming. Within 8 seconds, maybe less, Wong Jack Man realizes he's in serious trouble. Bruce's punches are getting through. His defense is crumbling. He's backpedaling, trying to create distance, trying to reset. But Bruce Lee doesn't give him space. He presses forward relentlessly, cutting off angles, intercepting every attempted counter. Wong Jack Man turns and runs. Yes, runs. Across the school, trying to escape the barrage. Bruce chases him. The fight, if you can still call it that, becomes a pursuit. Wong Jack Man is scrambling, trying to survive, no longer thinking about winning, or technique, or honor. Just survival. Bruce catches him near the back wall and takes him down. On the ground, Bruce establishes a dominant position. His fist is cocked back, ready to strike. Wong Jack Man is helpless. And then Bruce stops. He doesn't need to finish it. The point is made. Wong Jack Man is beaten. Thoroughly, decisively, humiliatingly beaten. The entire encounter lasts somewhere between 1 and 3 minutes, depending on who tells the story. But the initial exchange, the moment Wong Jack Man realized he couldn't win, that happened in 8 seconds or less. Bruce stands up. Wong Jack Man gets to his feet, humiliated, and leaves without a word. The witnesses file out silently. And Bruce Lee, standing alone in his school, realizes something that terrifies him. He almost lost. The victory that felt like defeat. After everyone leaves, Bruce sits down, breathing hard, hands shaking slightly from adrenaline. Linda asks if he's okay. He doesn't answer right away. He won, decisively. But he's not celebrating. Wong Jack Man was a traditional master with decades of training. The fight should have been easy for Bruce. It should have been over in seconds. And it was over quickly, but not as quickly as Bruce expected. Wong Jack Man had kept moving, changing angles, using different techniques from different styles. Bruce, relying heavily on his Wing Chun training, found himself chasing, expending more energy than necessary. His hands are sore, his breathing is labored. If Wong Jack Man had been better prepared, faster, more aggressive, Bruce realizes with chilling clarity, his technique wasn't good enough, his fitness wasn't good enough. Wing Chun, the style that saved him on Hong Kong streets, the style he's built his reputation on, it has limitations. That night marks a turning point. Bruce Lee begins the process that will define the rest of his life, the complete deconstruction and reconstruction of his martial arts philosophy. The aftermath, creating a revolution. In the weeks following the fight, Bruce Lee becomes obsessed. He trains harder than ever before. He questions everything he knows. He reads voraciously, books on Western boxing, fencing, wrestling, philosophy, physiology, biomechanics. He realizes that Wing Chun, with its close-range focus and limited mobility, had made him vulnerable when Wong Jack Man created distance. So he studies boxing footwork, learning to cut angles and close distance more efficiently. He realizes his conditioning wasn't good enough, so he revolutionizes his training regimen: running, cycling, weight training, controversial at the time for martial artists, and cardiovascular conditioning. He realizes that limiting himself to one style makes him predictable, so he begins studying everything: karate, judo, wrestling, savate, Muay Thai. He takes what works from each and discards the rest. This becomes the foundation of Jeet Kune Do. Not a new style, but a philosophy. Absorb what is useful, discard what is useless, add what is specifically your own. But Bruce's transformation goes deeper than technique. The fight with Wong Jack Man teaches him a profound lesson about arrogance, both his opponent's and his own. The arrogance that blinded both men. Wong Jack Man came to Bruce Lee's demonstration with absolute confidence. He represented traditional kung fu, centuries of accumulated wisdom, tested by generations of masters. He believed that tradition alone was enough, that the old ways, unchanged and pure, were superior to any modern adaptation. His arrogance was in his rigidity. He believed so strongly in his traditional methods that he couldn't see their limitations. When Bruce Lee's unorthodox, direct approach overwhelmed him, Wong Jack Man had no answer. His training had never prepared him for someone who didn't follow the traditional script, but Bruce Lee had his own arrogance. He believed his modifications to Wing Chun made him ready for any challenge. He thought speed and aggression alone would be enough. The fact that the fight lasted longer than he expected, that he had to chase his opponent and work harder than anticipated, revealed his own blind spots. Both men walked into that school, blinded by different forms of arrogance. Only one walked out willing to admit it. Wong Jack Man, according to various accounts, continued teaching traditional kung fu unchanged. He maintained that the fight was a draw, or that Bruce had violated the rules. He never publicly acknowledged defeat. Bruce Lee, however, did something remarkable. He admitted his weaknesses and rebuilt himself from the ground up. That willingness to evolve, to question his own mastery, to remain a perpetual student, that's what separated Bruce Lee from every other martial artist of his generation. The ripple effects, how one fight changed martial arts. The fight with Wong Jack Man, though witnessed by only a handful of people, sent shockwaves through the martial arts community. Word spread quickly through San Francisco's Chinatown, then throughout California, then across the country. Traditional masters were divided. Some saw Bruce Lee as a rebel who needed to be stopped. Others quietly began questioning whether their own training methods were truly as effective as they claimed. Bruce's students, inspired by his willingness to test his techniques in real combat, became evangelists for his approach. They spread Jeet Kune Do principles across the United States. They opened schools teaching mixed martial arts decades before UFC made it mainstream. But perhaps the most significant impact was on Bruce himself. The fight crystallized his philosophy in a way no amount of training or teaching could have done. It proved that real combat is chaotic, unpredictable, and unforgiving. It showed that no single style has all the answers. It demonstrated that adaptation is survival. Every film Bruce Lee made after that fight reflected this lesson. Watch Enter the Dragon, Fist of Fury, or Way of the Dragon. In every fight scene, Bruce's character adapts, improvises, uses whatever works in the moment. He doesn't rely on one technique or one style. He flows, adjusts, overcomes. That's not just choreography. That's the philosophy forged in a small Oakland school when an arrogant master challenged him and learned, in 8 devastating seconds, that tradition alone isn't enough. The controversy that never died. Decades later, the fight remains controversial. Wong Jack Man and his supporters claim the fight lasted much longer, perhaps 20 minutes, and ended inconclusively. They claim Bruce Lee violated agreements about which techniques were allowed. They claim it was a draw. Bruce Lee's students and Linda Lee tell a different story. A complete decisive victory in under 3 minutes, with the opening exchange decided in seconds. Who's telling the truth? Probably elements of both versions are accurate and exaggerated. Memory is unreliable, especially in high-stress situations. Ego colors recollection. Pride rewrites history. But here's what matters. Both sides agree the fight happened. Both sides agree it was intense, real, and consequential. And most importantly, only one side used the experience to evolve. Wong Jack Man continued teaching traditional methods unchanged until his death in 2018. Bruce Lee transformed completely, creating a philosophy that revolutionized martial arts worldwide and influenced millions of people far beyond fighting. The lesson that transcends fighting. The story of Bruce Lee versus Wong Jack Man isn't really about who won a fight in 1964. It's about 2 different approaches to life, knowledge, and mastery. Wong Jack Man represented the belief that truth exists in tradition, preserved unchanged through generations. That the old ways, if followed precisely, will lead to mastery. That innovation is disrespect and change is corruption. Bruce Lee represented the belief that truth must be tested, challenged, and evolved. That tradition is a starting point, not an ending point. That honoring the masters means building on their foundation, not freezing their techniques in amber. One man entered that school, believing he had nothing left to learn. The other man left knowing he had everything left to learn. Guess which one became a legend? The modern echo today. When someone quotes Bruce Lee's philosophy, absorb what is useful, discard what is useless, they're echoing a lesson learned in 8 seconds of combat. When UFC fighters train in multiple disciplines instead of just one martial art, they're following Bruce Lee's blueprint, forged in that Oakland school. When entrepreneurs talk about pivoting and adapting to market conditions, when artists blend genres, when scientists challenge established theories, when anyone questions whether we've always done it this way is good enough, they're channeling the spirit of that fight. Wong Jack Man came to prove that tradition alone was sufficient. Bruce Lee proved that tradition plus adaptation equals evolution. 8 seconds. That's all it took to reveal which philosophy would survive and which would fade into history. The ghost that haunted Bruce Lee. But here's the part that haunts the story. Bruce Lee never forgot how close he came to losing. In interviews, in private conversations with students, in his personal writings, he returned again and again to that fight. Not because he lost, he didn't, but because he almost lost. Because he realized that on another day, against a slightly better opponent, with slightly worse luck, he could have been the one running across the school, desperate and humiliated. That realization that his mastery was incomplete, that his confidence was partially unfounded, that he had so much further to go, that's what drove him to train with obsessive intensity for the rest of his life. Bruce Lee's training regimen became legendary. He trained 6 to 8 hours a day, every day. He documented everything in notebooks. He analyzed films of boxers and fighters. He invented training equipment. He pushed his body to absolute limits. Why? Because a traditional master challenged him, and for a few terrifying moments, Bruce Lee glimpsed his own mortality, his own limitations, his own potential defeat. Wong Jack Man meant to humble Bruce Lee. Instead, he created a monster, a martial artist so dedicated to evolution and improvement that he transcended martial arts entirely and became a philosopher, an icon, a legend. The final lesson, August 2, 1964, a demonstration in Long Beach, 500 students watching in awe. An arrogant master rising from his seat with a challenge, and 8 seconds that changed everything. This story isn't about violence or superiority, or proving who's the better fighter. It's about what happens when arrogance meets evolution, when rigidity meets adaptability, when tradition meets innovation. Wong Jack Man was teaching the same techniques for decades. Bruce Lee was teaching for one day when the challenge came, but he was ready because he never stopped learning.
The arrogant master challenged him. 8 seconds later, the challenge was decided. But the real victory came after, when Bruce Lee used that fight to rebuild himself completely, to question everything, to evolve beyond what anyone thought possible. That's the lesson 500 students witnessed that day in Long Beach, even if they didn't know it yet. Not that Bruce Lee could win a fight. Plenty of people can win fights, but that Bruce Lee would use every challenge, every obstacle, every near loss to become something greater. Wong Jack Man came to stop Bruce Lee's evolution. Instead, he accelerated it. 8 seconds to end a fight. A lifetime to understand what those 8 seconds meant. Be water indeed.